Hello, listeners. Thank you so much for coming back to this episode of Late Bloomers. I'm your host, Ria Ajane. I recently just changed my name on IG, but it's something that fit me, you know what I mean? Today we're gonna get into some things, and I'm smiling right now because of who the guest is. You may know her, or you're about to find out about her. Okay. Joining me today is Cari Harris, founder of the Claude C. Thornton Foundation, the Butterfly Effect, and also PMP, and also MS. Okay, Cari.
Hey Ria, I am excited about this podcast. First, I'm really proud of you for having the
Thank you.
podcast and giving the girls the education that they need and spreading really good information. They need to hear you and they need to hear the guests that you've been bringing on. So, shout out to you for creating this platform.
Thank you. Thank you. It is my intention to bring these conversations to the forefront. These are things that matter to me, and you're one of the people that inspire me. And so in this episode, we're going to get into the the intersection of entrepreneurship and climate justice.
Period. Let's do it.
Cari, how are you doing today?
That's a loaded question. Whenever somebody asks me that, I just say busy. I feel busy. I don't feel overwhelmed per se. There's a lot on my plate because we got the conference coming up on November 3rd. So we're like 2 weeks away on Monday. So I'm planning the conference, got a full book of clients, social life, relationship, family, you know, busy. But busy is
But
good in this economy.
amen to that, because just wanted to say acknowledge, because I know sometimes my podcast episodes are, filmed or not filmed, recorded, weeks before. To all the federal employees that are furloughed, you are in our hearts, in our mind. I am reposting things on my IG for the furloughed workers so that they gain access to get food or water, whatever people are offering at this time. So just wanted to say you're on our hearts and minds. And yeah, sorry for all the mess.
Yeah, praying for everybody.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I want to start this off by getting some insight into your journey. And I want to start by what inspired you to become an entrepreneur.
Well, I think since I was really young, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Since I've been really young, I always knew that I wanted to own my own business. And when I say really young, I mean grade school. I was kind of the go-to person for debating and anything business related amongst my classmates. Like if we were having a debate competition, Korea's leading that. And if there was something business or economics related, Korea's leading that as well. Sorry to the other side, for real, for real. But
Are
so,
we?
yeah. So I kind of known since I was really young. I didn't really
Mm-hmm.
know what it meant though, like in the real world. I
Mm-hmm.
think there are these fantasies, and I'm reading this book called The Four Agreements. Highly
Mm-hmm.
recommend, really good book. The third agreement is don't make assumptions. And in that chapter, it kind of talks about the fact that when you assume, you start building fantasies in your head about the assumptions that you're making. So when I was younger, assumed I'm going to be in business for myself. Great. Had a fantasy of like what that might look like. I'm gonna go from I'm a kid making barely any money at the time to making a whole bunch of money, right? Overnight. No, it doesn't happen like that. So I just kind of fantasized about it when I was really young. It wasn't until I would say maybe 8 or 10 years ago when I started getting around people who had small businesses and who had startup nonprofits that I realized like, okay, this is what it really looks like to be starting a business from putting your LLC on the Business Express website to getting clients or getting customers. What does that look like? And then ultimately having a business that can sustain you in your lifestyle and then get to a point where you start to scale and grow and hire and onboard contractors and different things. So I always wanted to be in business. Just got started owning my own business in 2020 and done a couple different things.
Go into your nonprofit, because I feel like that was Butterfly Effect first or was nonprofit first?
The butterfly effect came first in May of
Okay,
2022.
let's go into the butterfly effect and like what that means and what's that about.
Absolutely. So I again, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. My dad is an entrepreneur, so I grew up seeing entrepreneurship, and I had literally left corporate America, is what I'll call it, in 2021. I worked at Morgan Stanley when I graduated from college, and then I went to go work at Merrill and got licensed as a financial advisor there. And I remember talking to my mom about the fact that I was leaving Merrill because I wanted to go work for a small boutique consulting firm, and she was like, "No, don't do it." And I was just like, girl, I'm doing it. And I usually listen to my mom. Like, she's a very good judgment of character, very, very discerning individual. So I generally listen to her, but when
She
it
is an
comes to
Aquarius.
opportunity, what'd you say?
I said she is an Aquarius, so yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
She knows what's going on.
Okay.
I would say there's a couple things that I don't listen to her on because I have a
Mhm,
discernment about opportunity, I would say. And so I
mhm,
was just like, listen, I'm going to do this and we're going to see if it fails, I go back to corporate America. But if it
mhm,
works, like, then what? So left working at Merrill, went to go work for a small boutique consulting firm. I worked there for a year. And ironically, I had a client. So I had my job at the boutique consulting firm, and then I had a client as well on the side. And then I worked there for a year, and after a year, I had enough clients on the side where I could have my own firm. So I left there and incorporated the butterfly effect and started working with clients.
What inspired the name behind the company, the Butterfly Effect?
Oh, that's such a good question. I wish I could remember the exact moment that it kind of hit me. It's in my
Mhm,
journal somewhere, and I journal all the time. So I probably go through 3 journals a year, and that was in 2022. How many journals ago was that? When I think about the term, though, I knew what I wanted to do way before I had the name. And so I knew that I was a change agent when I get introduced to a client or start working with someone. Like, the whole operation changes. I get work done, I get it done quick, I think fast, I act fast, I'm a problem solver, and the work that I perform is excellent. If you have someone who's kind of all over the place, confused, or not confident, or they're just like overly burdened with a long list of things to do, getting
mhm,
introduced to someone like me, it's like a breath of fresh air. A client literally told me this year, like, when you came on, one, thank God you came on, and two, you came in, you kind of just hit the ground running, and that was that. So when I think about what I'm able to do for clients, although it's like standard kind of work, project
mhm.
management, stakeholder engagement, communications, data analytics, it's that feeling of like transformation because you go from one feeling to another, at least with the work that a client will assign me. And so the butterfly effect is really just a good way to sum it up. Like, a butterfly comes from a caterpillar, right? There's that metamorphosis and that transformation process. And so when
Mhm.
you work with me, you go through that process, and next thing you know, you're free, you're flying, you're clear, you're confident, and you've got excellent work.
And so in between you, I guess you started the Butterfly Effect, and then eventually you went on to your nonprofit, which I want you to tell the story behind what inspired you behind the nonprofit, because it is so heartwarming. And as your sea stutter, I already know, but please share with the class. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. So it's a long story, but we're on a podcast, so I guess I can tell the long version
Yes.
today. Medium version, not long, medium.
Okay.
So I remember driving on 83, and if you're from Baltimore, 83 is like a long, windy road. A lot of people
Mhm.
speed on there, and it's really
Not
dangerous.
anymore, honey.
Not no more, because them cameras is up.
Okay.
I was driving on 83, and I remember sometimes I like driving because it gives me a chance to like think. I can't do anything on my phone or my computer. Like, I'm literally just driving. And so as I was driving on 83, I remember just this sense of gratitude coming over me and being appreciative of where I was in my life and the success, quote unquote, the success that I was experiencing at the time. And I just felt really grateful for what God had afforded me. And I was thinking, like, how in the world did I get here? Like, it wasn't just like an overnight thing, but like
Mhm.
what really brought me step by step to the moment and the place. And all I could think about were people who had helped me, my mom, my mentor, my old boss at the time, and I worked for the small boutique firm,
Mhm.
and my stepmom was just like, Oh my goodness, I would not be where I am without these incredible women who have poured into me and kind of showed me the ropes, wrote recommendation letters for me, paid me a salary, told me about an internship that changed the trajectory of my career. And so I just want to do something special for them, like just a gesture to show my appreciation. And if you know me, I like to make an event out of anything. So I was like, I want to do an event and I want to honor them and I want to give them awards and I just want it to be super special. And so told a couple other people about it and they were like, "Oh, I got somebody that I could honor and do that whole process with." And so I was like, "Cool, let's just make an event out of it. And you'll honor your folks, I'll honor mine, and we'll get some other people together and we'll call it the Blossom Swimming Brunch." And the first event was like so sacred. I think every year we're constantly chasing that high of the first event, but the first event was super sacred and we enjoyed ourselves and we just like bonded. Like if you were in the room, you were in the room. You know what it was. And so from there, just having that initiative, it's like this isn't really a for profit, it's a nonprofit initiative. And then my mom, she had a couple of things she wanted to do in the nonprofit realm as well. And given I work with a bunch of like small nonprofits and I know how the nonprofit setup works in general. I was like, why not just incorporate a nonprofit? I named it after my grandfather because he is the blueprint for just like being a community person, like making all the friends, being a service individual, having integrity, family oriented man, just a real stand up guy. Perfect name. We got all these foundations named after all these people. We're gonna throw Claude in the mix. We're gonna throw him in the mix. And
Shout out
that's
to
kind of where it
Grandpa.
came from. So we incorporated, I did the paperwork, and then we kind of just hit the ground running. We rolled the Blossom Blooming Mentorship Program under. We have a clarinet scholarship and education program. And then as of 2024, we have the Greater Baltimore Climate Initiative under the foundation. So we have 3 programs and initiatives that are all very demanding, very successful, and really excited.
You just celebrated something yesterday, an award for the
Hmm.
foundation, if I'm correct. Could you go into more detail about that?
Yeah, yeah. So my mom and I are co-founders of the Claude C. Thornton Foundation, named after my grandfather and named after her father. Her name is Atrice Thornton, so she carries the family name. I'm a Harris, named after my dad, just to throw that out there. Yesterday, my mom has a program, the Clarinet Scholarship and Education Program. She does $1,000 scholarship to sophomore in the STEM or education major. And so she liked everybody who applied this year. This was the first year that we would actually send the money to a student. So really big deal. And she liked everybody so much. She gave $1,000 to one winner. And then she gave 2 $500 scholarships to 2 winners. And she
Oh,
gave $100 gift card to 2 other folks. So we had 5 recipients this year. Well, 3 scholarship recipients and 2 honorarium recipients. And when I say those young people, not that I'm not young, but those young people are bright, okay? They are bright. We just uploaded the award ceremony on YouTube, so you can find them on our YouTube channel at CCT Foundation. They got stuff going on. Like, they're recycling waste. So, in the cafeteria where they're at, they're making sure that food waste is not, piling up in our landfills.
yeah,
And they're
reducing it.
starting a nonprofit, recycling food waste. They have so much going for them. The way that they articulate themselves, they're in pitch competition, they're very well spoken. I mean, they're going places.
The recipients, were they all from Baltimore? Or did you have a mixture this year?
Oh, there was a mixture. I'm not
Okay.
sure. I know one of them is in the DMV area. I would have to
Mm.
check in with Artrice on their locations, but I know they might connect and meet up in DC. I know 2 of them were actually in the same place at the same time last week. They figured that out, and it was
Nice.
in DC. So,
I think that, I want to talk about the climate summit, but I just have to give you your flowers. I have to give you 10 claps on the back, okay? Okay, because you are doing it, dipping and doing it. I'm so proud of you. You inspire me every day. I mean, just you're doing, technically you have like 3 businesses. Well, technically you have more. And the way that you handle yourself, the way that you are able to kind of um, work on everything while also give your full attention while also having your healthy boundaries. And as an entrepreneur, I want to talk about that with you. What are some boundaries that you have had to place in your journey as an entrepreneur?
It's life is about setting boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
and entrepreneurship is a part of life. So, gotta set boundaries. I mean, I watch all kind of personal development videos, and part of what I do as a consultant, showing up with an executive presence, I would say, and me
Mm-hmm.
being 29, black, female, there's a lot that goes into showing up that way. And I would
Mm-hmm.
say confidence is a big piece of it. So with boundary setting, it's just kind of a confidence about it that I like to have and an expectation that, these boundaries are here and I'm assuming that you're meeting them essentially. So one thing I would say as an example is I don't typically talk to clients after a certain time or like
Mm-hmm.
in the evening, I would say. So like everybody's workday maybe ends around 5 o'clock. So somewhere between 5 and 6, it's kind of gray. Maybe we could chat. I don't typically talk to people between that time, but anything kind of after 6, it's not really gonna fly because it's not business hours. And I think part of that for me, it's not even like a hard boundary. It's not like don't call me after 6, right? It's just
Right.
kind of expected. Like we don't talk when it's not during the business day.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that's one of my boundaries. Have I had to enforce it in a written manner or a spoken manner before? I've had to do that with employees of my clients or contractors of my clients, just to let them know, hey, I don't talk at this hour, or like don't send me a message at 5 expecting me to get you something like before the day is over, because the day ended at 5. And that's another thing too. I generally don't have any client that I work with where something is due like the same day or the next day. Like I'm not someone who works in a like popcorn fast pace like I need this today. I don't work like that with any of my clients. Most of it, or all of it rather, is me mapping out and designing workflow and setting deadlines and setting up meetings so that I can control what the workflow looks like and pre-plan all the workflow that I have on my plate to make sure that I'm able to meet deadlines in a timely and excellent fashion.
Yes, those iterations, honey. The iterations of it all. I'm doing PMP lingo for all the people in the choir. Um, um, what core values or principles have guided you through ups and downs of entrepreneurship?
I would say principles, excellence. If I'm going to do something, it needs to be, if I'm going to do something for the amount of money that I charge per hour, it has to be really, really good. Like when
Mm-hmm.
someone gets something that I've done or an experience that I've curated or look at a deliverable or a deck or even an email, I want them to be like, wow, like this is not an email that I might get from someone that I already work with, or this isn't an email or a deliverable that I would get from myself even. Like I just want to make sure like when someone gets something from me, they're like, you know, I appreciate this. This looks really good. I'm very satisfied with it. So excellence is a standard or principle. Integrity is important. The trust factor, you don't have a business if nobody trusts you. So in business, in life, you should have integrity, right? But with business, it's kind of like your life principles are amplified because you're out there and you're doing something and it all falls on you. Like all my client work, all the deliverables that I'm responsible for, all the meetings that I have to show up to, it all falls on me. And so my clients need to trust that when they tell me to do something or they ask me for something, that it's just done. I want my clients to think when I tell Korea about it, it's going into a black hole and it's already done. Like don't worry about it again because you already know that I'm gonna get it done, or it's gonna be handled. Scandal plug. If you know, you know.
Did I
But
tell you I'm watching that?
are you watching it now?
Yeah, I am. I'm still on season 1. It's crazy. It's bonkers, but I'm having the best time ever.
Yeah, it is good. After you do that, you should do Ozark if you haven't already watched Ozark.
Yeah, I got to do that cuz I already finished How to Get Away with Murder.
You
We'll
finished
move
it or
on.
you didn't?
I finished it.
Oh, good for you. Good for you.
But yeah,
We'll
then I'll
induct
start.
you.
Yes. Um, what would you say would be a pivotal moment in your career as an entrepreneurship that kind of shaped how you approach business today?
Pivotal moment.
It could be several too. It doesn't have to be just one because, yeah. But
There's so many things I could talk about, but I won't get into certain things just because. But I would say one of the things that kind of sticks out when you ask that question is there was a time when I really wasn't, like, I've always been a confident person, but maybe I wasn't as confident as I should have been. When you're kind of showing up in certain rooms or on certain Zoom calls with certain people, like, you got to show up and build that trust and that confidence, because otherwise people are going to be like, well, why should I trust you with any of this money? Why should I trust you to get any of this stuff done? Right? Yeah. So I was still kind of teetering on, can I really do this? Like, I was like, oh, maybe I can. I don't know. I still worked for the boutique consulting firm. And so I had my one client, right? So I started working for the boutique consulting firm in April. I actually got my first client that same month. So nice. I started working for boutique firm, first client. So now I've got one firm that I'm working for full-time on salary. And then I have a client that that I'm working with. Don't have an LLC yet. So I'm a sole proprietorship at that point. So I'm working with my first client ever. We still work together, so shout out to him. And the year's going on, so I'm doing consulting work at my job, working with my client, and it's all clicking for me. Like, I'm like, okay, boom, I understand how to start businesses. I understand how to scale them. I'm working with clients that the firm is charging multiple tens of thousands of dollars a month to work with. I'm working with clients that the firm is charging a couple thousands of dollars. So, like, I'm understanding different scale of businesses. And I'll never forget, my mentor called me. And she says, Cari, you know Python? I was like, no, but what are you trying to do? And every client I've ever gotten, it was a question that I asked because I was curious. Curiosity is important. And she's like, well, let me tell you this story. She told me this long story of how one of her colleagues had reached out to her about building a tool that would visualize climate and environmental policy. And this is after the George Floyd tragedy. And so everybody wants to put money up and start doing their part when it comes to DEI, we'll call it. There's so much more to say, but we'll just call it DEI. Yeah. So she's like, one of my colleagues called me. He wants to put a group together, build a tool, visualize climate and environmental policy at the intersection of social justice, so environmental justice. And she's like, it's a team, it's a group, we're trying to do this, we need this. And I'm like, okay, I got someone. Mind you, one of my friends had told me they were interested in getting more work, building out their computer science and information technology firm. And so I'm like, I know somebody that could do it or build a team to do it. And so, boom, right there. She's like, bet, I want to bring you into the meeting as well. Okay. Weird. All right. I'm there. And so, long story short, that conversation turned into a $1,000 contract for a team to build a web application to visualize climate policy. And at the time, it was the Justice 40 executive order that Biden had passed. So we were tasked with scraping the web for all the different transactions and funding that rolled out through that initiative and visualizing it on a map. So I brought my friend into the contract, I brought myself in, and the only reason that I think this is a really pivotal moment for me is because, as you know, my mentor called me because someone called her. So they had a meeting. It was a lot of people in the meeting, maybe 30 people. And so her colleague at the time, who had called everybody to the table, was tasked with shrinking that group of folks to a small group that he could trust. His name is Dr. David A. Paget. And so he's like, okay, when I think about who I can trust, it was a very short list of people then that went, and came back to the table. And so Dr. Linda Luber, who's my mentor, she brought me in and my friend in because if she could be trusted, she could trust me and I could trust my friend. And so we were at that table and we were still in the deal-making process. The deal-making process is a process. And I would say anybody who's interested in being in entrepreneurship, you need to master the deal-making process because this is where I mastered it. Didn't know what I was doing, but because I was able to master that deal-making process in real time, we ended up solidifying that contract. And so long story short, long story long, long story medium, I'll say, I got brought in, but the deal wasn't done. And so there was a lot of confusion around what the scope of work would be. And so I'm somebody who can read a scope of work. Once you I read that scope of work, it could be 1 or 2 pages. I can build out the project plan or build a plan out on how to execute it. Because in my mind, like I can visualize what's written in the scope of work. So I read the scope of work, studied it, I knew what needed to be done, and in my mind, I had a plan on how we could execute that scope of work. But just because I understood didn't mean everybody else understood. And they had the scope of work longer than me, but what I said still stands. So we started looking a little confused to the funder. And so it was kind of like, do you guys understand like what needs to get done? Can I trust you guys to get this done? And I could sense that there was a little bit of doubt about whether or not we really were going to be able to secure the contract. And so I came up off mute. This is on Zoom. Okay. That was 4 years ago now. So I was 25, didn't really know much, right? I thought I knew a lot, but I really didn't know anything. Came up off mute and I'm like, hey, I understand the scope of work. We have a plan on how to execute it. I'd already put a project plan together, showed it to him. I'm like, this is how much money that we need. Like, we already know. Here are all the budget allocations. I put the plan together. I put the budget together. And he was just like, so somebody, is clear about what needs to get done and it's like communicating effectively. And so, I kind of turned into his point of contact just through that moment, right? Where it's like I spoke up with the clarity on how we were going to manage this and stating clearly the amount of money that we would need to do it. And so I went from kind of on the sidelines to literally having designed the budget. My budget line item went in and it went up. It went up a lot. And that was the largest contract at the time that I'd ever seen. I didn't even know people could make that kind of money like in a conversation like that. And so that really showed me, one, you can make deals and this is how you can get paid, right? So like this is how you can really do this entrepreneurship thing. That was in December 2021. And so I literally incorporated in 2022, and that moment showed me you can talk to people on Zoom and tell them like how much you charge for your services and they will pay. That was game changing.
Yep.
Game changer.
Yeah. Of course, I knew the story, but something that we're gonna kind of transition to is the Greater Baltimore
The
Climate.
Greater Baltimore Climate Summit. Yes.
Not the global, the Greater Baltimore.
Not the
Okay,
global.
not the because yes, we yes. Kind of get into what inspired you to start that summit.
So, the deal that I just mentioned to you guys, that was the first deal that I would ever do with a group that is now called the HBCU Environmental Justice Tech Collaborative. So that first deal we did, we built a tools funded by the Bezos Earth Fund, and we then went on to build 2 other tools. So we have a total of 3 tools that we've developed. That group is a really, really, really robust group. So I can't really talk about the summit before I get into like me working in that
Yeah.
collaborative. That collaborative has really afforded me a bunch of opportunities to be a part of the projects that we did, to build other tools through that collaborative. My business was also able to work as a subcontractor to the United States Environmental Protection Agency. So I've been a subcontractor on a federal government contract, which is huge, unheard of, big, right? Without having any prior government contracting experience. And I've just been introduced to so many people, and I've been able to work with folks who are at the PhD level who have been in their careers for decades. And these folks are engineers, they're geospatial scientists, they're GIS experts, they're public health experts, economists. I mean, you name it, we probably have somebody in our group that can do it and help out. And so just working with them from December 2021 through the middle of last year, still work with them to this day. But what inspired the summit was our work on the Community Change Grant Program with EPA. We were technical assistance providers. Basically, it's consulting, but in the public sector, they call it technical assistance because usually someone else hires the consultants and then the organization receiving it gets it for free. So we were providing technical assistance, and I had clients out in California. So I live in Baltimore. I had clients in California. So we worked together on Zoom, and I would go out and visit them and see exactly what they were working on. And so this one particular client, they were working on a brownfield site. They were cleaning it up, and looking to redevelop it. And the site was in Mount Shasta, California, which is Northern California. Beautiful, beautiful town. Mountain. And
Before you continue, explain what brownfield is.
so I'm not a scientist. Let's start there. But brownfield, in a short explanation, is a contaminated space. Like it's a contaminated site. So it could be a field. It could look like a playground, or it could look like a grass field where you could go and play football. But there's a bunch of contamination in the soil or and around the site, which makes it hazardous to human beings that might go and play football there, or go and have a picnic there, or just engage with the site in any way. So EPA.gov can give you a little bit more information if you're interested on brownfields, or contact Dr. David A. Paget on LinkedIn. He is an expert. But back to me being in Mount Shasta. Amazing place, super scenic. There's a mountain that sits right in the middle of the town. I mean, it's like a movie being there. Now, the thing about it is, you can't fly there because it's so scenic. So I had to fly to Medford, Oregon. So I'd never been to Oregon before. Fly to Oregon, smallest airport I've ever been to in my life in the United States. And then drive an hour to Mount Shasta. So I'm like in the sticks, basically. Like, no Marriott out there. It's no Starbucks. I don't drink Starbucks, but it's no Starbucks. I'm just giving you a picture of like how scenic it really is. And so as I was there, I had another aha moment. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm sitting here in the middle of Mount Shasta, California, and I don't know what is going on in my hometown on this granular level. And so I had tried for maybe a year before I started working with those folks in California to like talk to the mayor and talk to Senator Antonio Hayes and really try to get into the climate and environmental space in Baltimore. But I didn't really put enough effort into it, I would say. So when I had the aha moment, I was like, I need to go home, and I'm going to continue working with my gals out in Mount Shasta. But I also need to like really understand and study the landscape of the greater Baltimore region, because how could I live in Baltimore and I couldn't even tell you like what our biggest issues are.
Yeah.
And so I just went on a research project, essentially, to talk to everybody that I could, or anybody that would talk to me, and learn like, okay, what are the biggest issues that you guys are dealing with? Like, what are you working on? What are you having a hard time with? Just, trying to be a resource and provide support to anyone that I could. And then at the same time, I was working on that community change grant program with EPA. And that was a 10 million or 20 million, somewhere between 10 and 20 million dollar grant opportunity. So I was like, hey, what are you working on? Can I help you write a grant so that you can submit to this program? And so I was just doing that research, talking to people, reaching out, asking questions. And based on the first couple people that I had talked to, we started thinking and brainstorming, and it was like, maybe we should like have a conference, some sort of a day convening to really assess the landscape, really understand like from different angles in the industries and the sectors, like what's really going on. And that's where we would start to try to uncover what's going on in the landscape, and also think about how to synchronize agendas across the landscape. And so once we had that idea, like I said, once somebody gives me a little scope of work, I can do it. I can execute it. And so we took that idea of convening maybe 50 people or so. We thought maybe the who's who is what we called it in the climate and environmental space. We were going to have a convening, maybe do a panel of some sorts, but it was really going to be like a networking session to really understand the landscape for us. We went from that to a full-blown conference one day at IMET. 453 people registered, and 12 people came, and we were able to create partnerships with 22 organizations. We raised a substantial amount of money in less than 90 days. And some would call it a success. I mean, I think it was a success. We have a lot more work to do. We're planning the second one. But that's how the summit came about.
When you think about the Greater Baltimore Climate Summit that's coming up this November, what excites you most about it?
So many things. What excites me the most? I feel like the second summit is like a sophomore album. So it's like that first summit is like a breakout album of sorts, like you thought you wanted to be an artist. Here's your work, you're kind of like putting yourself out there. You want it to be as successful as possible because this is the first thing that you do and this is what people will remember you by. That second album or that second year, which is what we're in now, it's kind of like, okay, was the first one an accident? Was it I don't mean like that. I mean just like, was the first one like, can you really do this? You know, like, can you really do it again? And I think that we've made some changes this year. Obviously, the landscape looks a lot different. If you live in America, you know what I'm talking about. But like, we've been able to build something and plant our feet into the ground. You know, like we have roots. And so I'm really excited just to see what happens that day. Like, I'm excited to experience it. It was a blessing and a privilege to just experience the summit last year, to be there, listening to the panelists, talking to the people, hearing the questions being asked in real time, hearing what people thought about the conference. I'm really excited just to like experience that again and hear people's feedback about what it is that we're putting on. And the fact that it's year 2 is crazy. Like, we have a partnership with the state agency, the Maryland Department of the Environment. We have the National Academies of Engineering, Medicine, and Science doing a panel at our conference, and we have so many incredible community organization leaders doing breakout sessions and sitting on panels, and we're achieving the mission that we're setting out to do, which is to convene leaders across sectors and convene leaders across all levels of government in the private and public sector. So the fact that we were able to do it again a second year, I mean, it hasn't happened yet, but the planning process is going incredible. I think I'm just really excited to see what it looks like that day of.
Yeah. What's the message or goal that you hope participants take away from this event?
So I was thinking this weekend about the theme of the conference: resilience, community, and action in a time of uncertainty. And so the main piece, which is highlighted on all of our marketing materials, is action.
Yeah.
Act. You know, and in a lot of ways, entrepreneurship is an action, right? Like, it's not a noun, it's an action. As entrepreneurs, we just do things and we see what happens and we course correct and do other things. And so really what I hope everybody takes away is just that spirit and mindset of acting. Don't be perfect, don't expect perfection, don't strive for perfection. Give it your all, right? But just do, right? And in the process of doing, you can't be uncertain, right? Because you're doing. You can't be fearful because you're going. And see what happens, right? And if it goes the way you thought, great. If you fail, course correct, try again. Because ultimately, this conference is about communities that are being affected by environmental hazards and burdens and phenomena. And how do we make sure that us as civil society, because us as the host committee, we're all professionals at institutions or at businesses, but we came together as individuals in civil society. How do we decrease the negative burdens of those environmental phenomena, and how do we best position all the institutions and organizations in this region to maximize benefits for the community members?
Well, you've already answered like some of the questions that I had within your responses. Let me see. Okay. How can listeners or local entrepreneurs get involved with the summit or sustainability initiatives in Baltimore?
Perfect. So one, if you want to get involved with the summit, please go to the cctfoundation.org and you'll find everything that you need to know about the Greater Baltimore Climate Initiative and the Greater Baltimore Climate Summit there. And if you really want to, be a support, you can feel free to use the chat feature on the website, drop your email in, and we will send you a message. Now, the broader question, how can someone support sustainability initiatives in Baltimore? The first thing I would say is to attend the Office of Sustainability's monthly meetings. I would also say to reach out to the director of the Office of Sustainability or someone in her office. I believe they're all very friendly, they're all very responsive. They all have meeting calendars, so if you're interested in setting up a meeting with them to figure out what you can do to support their office, I believe it should be a very simple process for you to get a meeting set up. Number 2, I would say, and this one, I don't know if it's a big ask or not a big ask. I'm a reader, so I read a lot. Ria's looking at me on camera so she can see all the books that I have on my bookshelf. But there's one book in particular that I like, and it talks about disparities in Baltimore. It doesn't necessarily talk about environmental or climate disparities, but it talks about disparities in Baltimore. And it's a really good book to give you kind of the history and the backstory on what's going on in Baltimore today. It's called The Butterfly Effect by Lawrence T. Brown. Read that book. Read the Cliff Notes version if you have to. Highly recommend. And read other books that kind of give you the context of what's going on, not even just in Baltimore, but all the cities. Like, what's really happening. And I would double down on reading about the history, because in this time that we're in, a lot of the history is being erased and the access to the history is being destroyed, and there's a reason, right? That means that access to the history is valuable. So if you have access to the history, take advantage. The third thing that I would say is, whether you're in Maryland, Baltimore, whether you live in California, Alaska, China, figure out what's going on at home, whether that's in your neighborhood, on the street level, whether it's the couple of block neighborhood level, whether it's the city county level, whether it's the state level. I just want everybody to get involved in the civics process. Talk to your neighbors, figure out what their complaints are, really start to try to uncover those little small things that you can do in your neighborhood. That way we can work from that bottom up perspective to make the world a better place.
Okay, did that, girl. I knew you were gonna bring up that book too, because I was like, I should never bring up the butterfly. Like, I'm like, oh, I hope so. I keep seeing it get some popularity on TikTok now that I'm back on there. I'm like, yes, more people, especially from Baltimore, need to read this book. I too have the book. And I think that it's important, period, like you said, to know the history of where you're at, whether it's the street, somewhere down the street, up the street, but just know what's going on locally and get involved. And also remember to vote, y'all. Now more than ever.
Get involved in the legislative process.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to myself. I'm not just talking to the
Yeah.
microphone or the audience. Like, I
Yeah.
need to know more of the bills that are going to be on the floor this upcoming legislative session. I need to
Yeah.
know who's supporting the bills, which organizations, which legislators, which institutions, companies. Like, I need to get more involved myself, not just for the work that I do, but just as a human being engaged in the
Yeah.
civics process. Regardless of whether I'm interested in it or not, it's happening to me. So I should at least know what's happening to me.
And there's other things that are affecting your neighbors that you should be aware of, and we just need to work together now more than ever.
Now more than ever.
Now more than ever. What is one lesson from your journey that you think every aspiring entrepreneur should know?
This is my theme for the week. I would say failure is a part of the process. I think people see the success and they think that it goes from just start to success. But there's so many failures in between. And so a lot of stuff that I do and that I teach and that I talk about is around mindset. I think your mindset is like the predecessor to success in any way, shape, or form. So having the mindset and knowing that like success is a byproduct of a bunch of failure. So like if you go into it, go into entrepreneurship, go into starting a nonprofit, go into anything knowing that I'm going to fail, you'll fail fast. You'll try to fail as much as you can so that you can get to success, rather than being afraid of the failure or afraid of the rejection. There's so much I could have talked about on this podcast in regards to like the failures along the way of even hosting the climate summit, the failures along the way of building my business, the uncertainty of not knowing if I would be able to continue with my business. And there's all these failures and these uncertainties and these fears that come along with it, but just knowing that's a part of the process and embracing it. Don't be afraid of it. Embrace it, because everything you want is on the other side of fear.
I think that's great to put out there, and that sounds like something that keeps you motivated even when times are tough, right?
Absolutely.
It's like, all right, now look, this is part of the process. How are we going to pivot? And know that every entrepreneur has gone through a failure. Okay.
Yeah.
They
Any
might not
successful
say it.
person, period, has gone through failure. I'm in a program now called Leadership Maryland. And in that program, we do these day-long trainings. I was there all day yesterday in Annapolis. And every training, we have a panel of folks who have been in the program before, These are CEOs of financial advising firms. These are the board chairs of the Maryland Health Exchange. These are, we had, I'm just naming folks that were there yesterday, and we had the COO of the Y of Central Maryland. These folks are running big organizations, okay? Big budgets, big money coming in every month. Failures are part of their process. There is no successful CEO, COO, board chair, leader of any sort or kind that doesn't know that failure is a part of the process. So embrace it.
Looking ahead, what are your hopes for Baltimore's future when it comes to kind of like entrepreneurship and the intersection between like climate leadership?
I love that question. Folks that I work with, we are really pushing climate tech innovation as a Maryland economic priority. We have a thriving ecosystem of climate tech entrepreneurs and climate entrepreneurs that is fostered by a bunch of different organizations. One being the Baltimore Climate Tech Meetup, led by Justin. We have the Climate Innovation Alliance that Scott is working on over at University of Maryland. We have a lot of folks who have startups in our space, and I want for our leadership to, when I say leadership, I mean, we could have venture capital leaders. It could be, any kind of leader in the state that has significant influence and power and capital to invest. I would like to see our leadership putting dollars and power and influence in the hands of these startup founders so that they can then go and create successful, viable businesses that would employ citizens of our region, employ Maryland citizens, and really put our region on the map. So I would love to see leadership backing some of these startup founders. I would love to see leadership investing in sustainable infrastructure and sustainable solutions, thinking long term. Fortunately, we live in Maryland, so we do have a government that is very supportive around these issues, I would say. And the last thing that I will say is I want for our region to be on the map. So when you think about climate solutions and who's out in the front in the United States, we think California, we think New York, we think the South, thanks to Dr. Robert Bullard and Dr. Beverly Wright. We think about those places. I want for folks to think about the greater Baltimore region, Maryland, and the Mid-Atlantic. I want us to be up there competing to be providing the public with the most innovative solutions of our time.
You are just killing it, girlfriend.
I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. I have some. I am still working on the title. These are not rapid fire, but these are just fun questions that I like to ask people. Yeah, they're not really rapid at all. What's the first job you ever had?
The first job I ever had, I worked at a cupcake stand in Columbia Mall.
Wait, which one was this one?
I can't even remember the title or the name of the company. I just know they had this apple cupcake that was so delicious. I would spend all my money on buying the apple cupcakes every day after work because they were so good.
One word your friends would use to describe you.
I would say confident.
Yeah, right on.
I've heard that a lot in descriptions of me.
Yes. What's your go-to productivity hack?
I live by the calendar. And to be specific, I live by the Google Calendar. Anything professional or personal is on my Google Calendar. You don't want to know how many email accounts that I operate, but they all flow into one calendar. And so that calendar is the holy grail. If it's not in that calendar, it's not going to happen. I won't be there, and it's not going to get done.
What's one climate-friendly habit you're proud of?
Climate-friendly habit that I'm proud of. That I do or that other folks do?
I guess both, and I guess you. Let's start with you. This episode is about you, honey.
That's true. I think one thing that I've kind of like always had a habit of, I went to an environmental science high school. Now, my focus wasn't environmental science at the time, but I did go to a school with a major in environmental science. And so I've always been someone who doesn't litter. If someone litters in front of me, I'm like, you need to pick that up and throw it in the trash. I do pride myself on like not polluting things that are already polluted as best as possible. I think something else that I'm like insanely weird about is like not printing unnecessarily. So like we
Yeah.
host the summit, we don't do any paper programs. Everything is virtual. I don't unnecessarily print like run of shows or just, stuff
Mhm.
like that. I don't own a printer. My mom says, "How do you have a business and you don't have a printer?" And I get where she's going with it, but like I don't want to just be printing stuff. Like I can look at it on the computer screen.
Yeah. Agreed. I didn't know that that was an intentional thing that you did for the summit last year. That's really cool. Like,
Yep.
no, they do, like, you go to a summit, any summit, it could be about anything. It's papers, it's brochures, and like when you get home, are you gonna be looking at that? No.
No. No. Just be real. Like you're gonna put it in recycling or the trash and
Use it as a
move on
bookmark,
about your
perhaps.
life.
You know what I mean? But yeah. Let me see.
Even the lanyards, like I'm still on the fence about if I want to get lanyards for the summit because it's like I have
Oh,
10,000 lanyards from all these conferences and like what am I gonna really do with them?
okay. No, that's a good point. There's things I'm like, oh, didn't even think about that. Crab cakes or oysters?
Crab cakes.
Your face.
No question.
Entrepreneurship is, finish the
In action.
sentence, period. And then finally, the future of Baltimore is.
Wow, you got me with that one. It's like 10 words came to my head at the same time. And I was like, wait a minute,
Name them
what?
all. Name them all. Ain't no, it's not
Okay.
one answer.
The future of Baltimore is green. The future of Baltimore is bright. The future of Baltimore is competitive. The future of Baltimore is sustainable. And the future of Baltimore is full of highly successful people leading the world in not only sustainability of the environment, but sustainability on a true self sufficient, I won't even call it self sufficient because there's controversy around that. But showing
Yeah.
people what it really means to have sustainable, resilient cities where people care about each other, they're in community, and just living like we need each other. We're all interdependent in this thing here. Let's get away from this independent or hyper independence that we've kind of gotten towards and that COVID kind of solidified, and let's move back to like being in community and truly having sustainable economies and a sustainable place as far as climate resilience.
Cari Harris. Where can people find you?
People can find me on LinkedIn, Cari A. Harris, MS, PNP. You can find me on Instagram, strategically Cari. I also have a company website if you want to see the kind of work that we do. We're T for the, B for butterfly, effect.co, no M. And if you really want to find me, you can hit Rhea up because she knows where I be.
I just realized what you said about the CO, no,
No M.
.co. Um, Thank you so much for blessing me with your presence today. Love you, sister.
Love you.
Love you. I think what you're doing is amazing. I can't wait to come to this climate. Everyone, every link or resource that we mentioned will be put in the description box. And make sure to check out the Climate Summit if you are in Baltimore, if you want to get more involved. I think it's a great place to start, and you won't be disappointed, and you'll be fed.
And you'll be
Okay.
fed.
You'll be
Shout
fed,
out
okay?
to THB. Shout out to McAllister's. They are our trusted suppliers of breakfast and lunch, and they are
Mhm.
also our partners. So they give us a little bit of help because we are a 501c3 and we need all the help we can get. So we thank you. We thank you at THB and McAllister's.
Well, thank you so much, Kari, and everyone. Like I said, check out that description box and get involved. That is the action. Get involved. Get to the action. Be about that action, okay? And get involved. And I'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for having me, Rhea.
You're welcome, Kari. Love you.
Love ya. See y'all.